Think being a pharaoh was all gold crowns, fan-waving servants, and lounging by the Nile? Picture waking up in 2500 BCE Egypt, slathered head to toe in goose grease, reciting tongue-twisting spells to stop a hippo god from chomping the sun, while priests shave every last hair off your body to please Ammonius. Talk about a morning routine that'd make your horoscope obsession look like child's play. Ancient Egypt's living gods, pharaohs like Khufu, lived by rituals so bizarre they'd give your yoga class a run for its money. Superstitions ruled their world. Wear a scarab charm or face Anubis' dog-headed wrath. Sacrifice a bull or doom the harvest. Trip during a festival and kiss your divine status goodbye. Meet Khufu, our pharaoh, sweating buckets in a torch-lit temple, draped in linen, clutching a creepy falcon amulet, praying his chant doesn't flop and unleash a cosmic tantrum from RA. No Netflix, no chill, just endless rites, spooky talismans, and the constant threat of divine payback if you miss a step. This isn't Survivor Nile edition. It's a history so weird it's oddly soothing, like a bedtime story from a sarcophagus. Drift off as we unravel Egypt's strangest secrets. No lotus flowers or priestly razors required. Picture a pharaoh strutting through ancient Egypt, dripping with gold, his every whim a divine command. Sounds like the ultimate VIP lifestyle, right? Wrong. Try living as a living god in 2500 BCE, where your day starts with priests slathering you in goose grease, shaving every inch of your body to dodge Ammonius' wrath, and chanting spells so the sun doesn't get eaten by a hippo deity. Ancient Egypt's pharaohs, like Khufu, weren't just kings. They were cosmic tightrope walkers, juggling rituals so bizarre they'd make your morning coffee run look like a sacred rite. Superstitions ruled their world, where the wrong amulet, and Anubis might dog your dreams. Flub a festival dance, and the Nile could dry up. Skip a bull sacrifice, and you're toast, maybe literally. These weren't quirky traditions. They were life-or-death gambles to keep Egypt's gods from throwing a divine tantrum. From torchlit temples to Nile-side altars, every chant, charm, and creepy talisman was a plea to avoid cosmic payback. Tonight, we're peeling back the golden mask to reveal the weirdest rites and beliefs that kept pharaohs trembling, from their daily offerings to their afterlife obsessions. Meet Khufu, sweating through another spell to save the world, his coal-smeared eyes scanning for divine approval. Drop a comment if you'd trade your alarm clock for a priest's razor and a falcon god's glare. Settle in, let the Nile's gentle lap lull you, and let's dive into a history so strange it'll make your horoscope seem downright sensible. Being a pharaoh in ancient Egypt wasn't about basking in gold and glory with a Nile-side view. It was a dawn-to-dusk marathon of rituals so bizarre they'd make your morning yoga session look like a divine edict straight from RA himself. As living gods, pharaohs like Khufu were Egypt's cosmic linchpin, their every gesture a desperate plea to uphold Marat, the universal balance that kept the sun rising and the Nile flowing. Morning rituals kicked off this sacred circus, a sweaty, incense-drenched ordeal of purification, anointing, and chants to ensure RA didn't hit snooze and plunge the world into chaos. For Khufu, sunrise wasn't a time for coffee and scrolls. It was a high-stakes showdown with divinity where one wrong move could spell doom. Welcome to the morning rituals of Egypt's living gods, where waking up meant wrestling with eternity itself. Close your eyes, let the soft hum of temple chants lull you, and let's plunge into the weirdest morning routine in history, where even your toothbrush would need a priest's blessing. Picture a shimmering chamber in Memphis, 2550 BCE, its sandstone walls etched with hieroglyphs of Horus-piercing eyes and Osiris-green flesh, the air thick with a cloying scent of myrrh and the oppressive heat of dawn. Khufu, 40, his coal-lined eyes heavy with sleep, rises from a woven reed mat, his linen kilt already clinging to his skin in the stifling humidity. A cadre of priests, their shaved heads glistening like polished bronze, descends upon him, brandishing obsidian razors to strip every hair from his body. Scalp, beard, eyebrows, even the unmentionables, to purify him for Ammonius' divine scrutiny, per the Book of the Dead's rigid decrees. His wife, Meritites, stands nearby, her own rituals looming, her fingers braiding their daughter, Hathor's, 12, with turquoise amulets to ward off Seth's chaotic whispers. Khufu's son, Kawab, 15, polishes a ceremonial bronze scepter with trembling hands, knowing a single smudge could anger the gods and curse the harvest, per Giza reliefs. The priests pour Nile water over Khufu, its cold, silty flow stinging his freshly shaved skin, their chants to Happy, the flood god, rising in a hypnotic drone to cleanse his divine essence. They slather him with goose grease and lotus oil, the rancid mix making his stomach churn, his slick skin catching the torchlight as he dons a heavy leopard skin robe, its weight a reminder of Horus gaze, per stele of Amenhotep III. Khufu clutches a scarab amulet, its cool stone grounding him as he mutters prayers to Ra, his throat raw from the dawn's first hymn, each syllable a shield against cosmic collapse, per hymns to Ra. A young priest, Imhotep, fumbles a censer, spilling frankincense embers onto the floor. Khufu's heart lurches. An ill omen like this could mean Anubis is prowling, per papyrus of Ani. This isn't a royal spa treatment with cucumber slices. It's a morning routine so intense it'd make your 5-minute shower feel like a sacred gift from Horus himself. Talk about a wake-up call where hitting snooze risks a divine meltdown that could tank the entire Nile Valley. These morning rituals were the pharaoh's first act of divine duty, a meticulously choreographed performance to keep Egypt's gods from throwing a celestial tantrum, as outlined in the pyramid texts, ancient spells etched in stone to guide rulers through eternity. Purification was non-negotiable. Body hair was deemed impure, a magnet for chaos, so priests shaved Khufu daily with razor-sharp obsidian blades, their hands steady but their eyes cold, knowing a nick could be read as Seth's displeasure, per Book of the Dead. The Nile water, drawn at dawn and blessed as Happy's lifeblood, was meant to wash away mortal taint, but its gritty silt stung Khufu's raw skin, leaving him blinking back tears, as temple reliefs from Karnak depict pharaohs enduring similar rites. Anointing was next, a slippery ordeal where priests smeared him with myrrh, lotus oil, and goose grease, a pungent mix believed to infuse him with divine radiance, per the Papyrus Eber's medical texts, though the grease attracted flies that buzzed relentlessly, a torment Khufu bore in silence. Dressing was its own ritual. His linen kilt, woven from flax as pure as moonlight, symbolized Ma'at's order, per artifacts in the tomb of Tutankhamun, while the leopard skin robe, heavy with sacred claws, linked him to Horus' ferocity, per Abydos Stele. Amulets were crucial. Khufu's scarab, carved from lapis lazuli, and his ankh pendant, gleaming gold, were talismans against evil, per Cairo Museum finds, but their weight chafed his neck, a constant reminder of his divine burden. The morning hymns to Ra, memorized to perfection, were a vocal tightrope. Each syllable had to be flawless, per hymns to Ra, or the sun might falter, plunging Egypt into darkness, a fear rooted in the annals of Thutmose III's records of ritual failures. It's like a morning routine where your shower is a high-stakes spell, your deodorant is a sacred grease, and forgetting your lines could trigger an apocalyptic power outage across the kingdom. The stakes of these rituals were nothing short of cosmic, a daily gamble where a single misstep could unravel Egypt's divine order. A flawed purification, per the Papyrus of Ani, might offend Ammonius, inviting drought or pestilence to ravage the land. Khufu's father, Sneferu, once stumbled over a hymn's cadence, per the Westcar Papyrus. The Nile flooded chaotically, ruining crops, and his court whispered of divine displeasure, his legacy tarnished in temple records. Meritites' braiding of Hathor's hair, weaving in turquoise amulets to shield against Seth's malice, was a mother's ritual, per tomb of Mersang III reliefs, but a loose knot could draw whispers of a curse, her hands trembling under the priest's watchful eyes. Kawab's task of polishing the scepter, a bronze rod topped with a lotus bud symbolizing Ma'at, was a boy's burden, per Giza reliefs. A single scratch could be read as an omen of chaos, risking the harvest's failure, per Saqqara inscriptions. The priests themselves were unforgiving judges, per the Edict of Horemheb, their authority rooted in divine law. Imhotep's fumbled censer, spilling embers, was no mere accident but a potential signal of Ra's wrath, costing him a public flogging in his family's honor, per Papyrus Harris I. Khufu's every move was scrutinized. His posture, his voice, even his sweat could be read as a sign, per Karnak reliefs, turning his morning into a divine performance where failure wasn't an option. It's like a corporate job where your performance review is conducted by a god, your KPI is cosmic stability, and your pink slip comes with a plague or a flood. Here's a shocker to keep you hooked. or at least mildly horrified. These mourning rituals often demanded blood, a grim reminder that divinity came at a cost. Priests, per Karnak reliefs, slit the throats of sacred ibises to honor Thoth, the god of wisdom, their blood smeared on Khufu's hands to bind him to the divine, a rite that left Maritites gagging, per Papyrus Ebers. A thrall, tasked with carrying Nile water, spilled a jar, per Papyrus Harris I. His punishment was a beating that echoed through the temple, his cries haunting Hathor's dreams as she clutched her amulet tighter. Hathor's own ritual, weaving a lotus charm for Isis, required a calf's blood to bless the thread, per Saqqara tombs. Its plaintive bleat chilled her, her hands sticky as she worked under Tahotep's glare. Khufu's scepter, polished to mirror-like perfection, was anointed with ox fat, its rancid stench clinging to his skin, per Abidas Stele, a reminder of the lives, animal and human, sacrificed to keep Ra's chariot rolling. These weren't symbolic gestures. They were visceral, bloody bargains with gods who demanded proof of devotion, per Annals of Thutmose III. Drop a comment if you'd shave your entire body to appease a god who'd curse you for a razor nick, or if you'd smear blood on your hands to keep the sun rising. Yeah, didn't think so. The toll of these rituals was as heavy as the granite blocks of Khufu's pyramid, a relentless drain on body and spirit that left even a pharaoh weary. Khufu's skin burned from the goose grease, its oily sheen a constant irritation, his throat raw from hours of chanting, his sleep fractured by the dread of omens, per Papyrus of Ani. Meritite's hands shook as she braided Hathor's hair, her fingers cramped from weaving amulets, her faith in Isis wavering under the priest's cold stares, per Tomb of Nefertari. Hathor's, barely a teenager, lost her childhood to the weight of her charms, her eyes dull from the temple's endless demands, per Saqqara inscriptions. Khufu's polishing hardened his hands and his heart, his youth spent fearing a smudge that could doom Egypt, per Giza reliefs. The Book of the Dead warns of the divine burden, pharaohs and their kin buckled under it, their lives consumed by the need to perform flawlessly. Khufu's uncle, per Annals of Thutmose III, collapsed mid-chant, his heart failing under the strain. His son fled Memphis, abandoning his name to escape the temple's grip. Irik's neighbor, a lesser priest, was exiled for a misspoken him. His family left to beg, per Papyrus Harris I. It's like a life where your morning routine is a divine trial, your every move a test, and your family pays the price for your smallest slip, a world where even a god-king wakes up dreading the day. Let's drift deeper into this incense-choked haze, where the line between mortal and divine blurs in the flicker of torchlight. These morning rituals were more than ceremonial. They were divine contracts, binding Khufu to a pantheon as fickle as the Nile's floods. The priests, per Papyrus Westcar, were the enforcers, their chants Ra's voice, their razors Ammonius' will, but their own power grew with every offering, their temples swelling with gold while Khufu's court rationed bread, per Karnak reliefs. Stele across Egypt, like the stele of Amenhotep III, plead for Ma'at's balance, their hieroglyphs a desperate prayer for divine approval, but the gods remained silent, their whims known only through the priest's omens, per Papyrus Ebers. Khufu's prayers were his crown, each syllable a chain linking him to eternity, but his fear was his true throne, a seat carved from the dread of failing Ra, Ammonius, or Osiris. It's like a faith where your deity is a cosmic judge, your devotion a daily deposition, and your soul is perpetually on trial, with no appeal in sight. This wasn't just a morning routine, it was the heartbeat of a civilization, a daily act of defiance against chaos that defined Khufu's role as a living god. The Nile water, per hymns to Hapi, was Egypt's lifeblood, its silted flow a reminder of the land's fragility, each pour a prayer for the flood that fed millions. The goose grease, per Papyrus Ebers, was a sacred alchemy, transforming Khufu into a vessel for Ammonius' light, its stench a small price for divinity. The leopard skin robe, per Abidas Stele, was Horus' mantle, its claws a symbol of power that weighed heavier than gold. The scarab amulet, per Cairo Museum finds, was a talisman of rebirth, its weight a promise of eternity, if Khufu could just get through the morning without a fumble. Meritite's braiding, per Tomb of Mersang III, was a mother's love woven into Hathor's hair, each amulet a shield against Seth's shadow. Khufu's scepter, per Giza reliefs, was Ma'at's rod, its polish a boy's vow to uphold order. The priest's chants, per hymns to Ra, were the sun's fuel, their voices a chorus that kept the world spinning, even as their own power eclipsed the throne, per Edict of Hormheb. As we float through this golden-lit chamber, heavy with the scent of myrrh and the weight of divinity, picture Khufu standing slick with grease, his hands trembling as he clutches his scarab amulet, Meritite's braid unsteady under the priest's gaze, Hathor's eyes wide with the burden of her charms, Khufu's scepter heavy in his young hands. He's not just a pharaoh, He's a living god, every chant a chain binding him to the cosmos, every ritual a risk that could unravel Marat. The morning rituals of Egypt's living gods were a crucible, forging pharaohs through divine performance and breaking them under the weight of eternal scrutiny. Drop a comment if you'd wake at dawn to pray until your throat cracks just to keep Ra's sun rising. Drop another if you'd let priests shave your eyebrows to dodge ammonious cosmic glare. This was the cost of being a living god, a soul slick with grease, forever teetering on the edge of divinity and disaster. If you think that's a weird way to start the day, brace yourself, because the divine offerings they made to appease the gods were a bloodier bargain altogether. If the morning rituals of ancient Egypt's pharaohs were a cosmic warm-up act, the daily offerings to the gods were the main event. A high-stakes transaction where the currency was blood, gold, and a whole lot of sweat, all to keep Marat's delicate balance from tipping into chaos. Forget tossing a few coins into a charity bucket. These offerings were non-negotiable, a divine tax that pharaohs like Khufu paid to appease a pantheon of deities who'd smite an entire kingdom for a bad mood. From slaughtered bulls to fragile lotus blooms, every gift was a desperate plea to gods who could unleash famine, flood, or a one-way trip to Osiris' underworld if they felt slighted. For Khufu, these offerings weren't a generous tip for good service. They were a frantic "please don't end the world" bargain. Welcome to the divine offerings of Egypt's living gods, where every altar was a gamble with eternity itself. Let's drift into this bloody saga, lulled by the clink of golden bowls and the rhythmic chants of priests slicing through the morning haze. Picture a sun-baked courtyard in Thebes, 2545 BCE, its towering sandstone pillars carved with the snarling jackal head of Anubis, the air heavy with the sweet burn of frankincense and the sharp, coppery tang of fresh blood. Khufu, 45, stands before a towering altar to Ammonius, his leopard skin robe scratching his sweat-soaked skin, his coal-smeared eyes locked on a massive bull, its gilded horns glinting, its panicked bellows echoing off the temple walls. A circle of priests, their linen robes spattered with crimson, wield curved bronze knives, their voices rising in a hypnotic chant to Ammonius as they slit the bull's throat, its blood gushing into a wide bronze basin etched with hieroglyphs, per Karnak reliefs. Meritites, Khufu's wife, steps forward, her hands trembling as she places a bundle of lotus flowers on the altar, her heart racing at the thought that a wilted petal might anger Isis, per tomb of Nefertari. Their daughter, Hathor, 17, scatters myrrh resin onto a brazier, her turquoise amulet clutched tight. Praying Hathor accepts the offering, her breath shallow under the priest's scrutiny, per Abida Stele. Kawab, 20, Khufu's son, presents a golden ankh, its polished surface catching the sun, his palms slick with sweat, knowing a single flaw in the metal could doom the Nile's crucial flood, per Saqqara inscriptions. The bull's heart, still steaming, is placed on the altar to burn, its smoke curling upward as food for Ammonius, per Papyrus Ebers. A junior priest, Imhotep, stumbles, knocking ash from the brazier. Khufu's stomach knots. An omen like this could signal Ra's displeasure, per Papyrus of Ani. This isn't your Sunday farmer's market donation. It's an offering so intense it'd make your grocery budget look like a pharaoh's ransom paid in solid gold. Talk about a gift where "give generously" means, or the gods might hit your kingdom with a cosmic eviction notice. These divine offerings were a pharaoh's core responsibility, a sacred tax paid daily to keep Egypt's gods from turning their backs on the land, as prescribed in the Book of the Dead. Bulls were the ultimate gift for Ammonius, their blood seen as life itself, per Papyrus Harris I. Each sacrifice drained Khufu's royal herd, his wealth bleeding out with every cut, leaving his court to ration meat, per Giza reliefs. Lotus and papyrus flowers, symbols of rebirth, were offered to Isis, per tomb of Nefertari, but Meritites' blooms, plucked at dawn to ensure purity, wilted in the desert heat, their drooping petals a potential affront to the goddess, per Papyrus Ebers. Incense, frankincense and myrrh, was burned to feed the god spirits, per hymns to Ra, but Hathor's myrrh, imported from Punt, cost a fortune in gold, per Cairo Museum trade records, its weight measured to the grain under the priest's unyielding gaze. Gold offerings, seen as Ra's flesh, were crafted into ankhs and scarabs, per stele of Thutmose I. Kawab's ankh, forged in Memphis royal workshops, siphoned taxes that could have fed a village, per annals of Thutmose III. Daily food offerings, loaves of emmer bread, jars of beer, pots of honey, were laid before altars, per Abida Stele, but Khufu's bread, baked in temple ovens, starve his own court, their meals reduced to barley gruel, per Karnak reliefs. These weren't symbolic gestures. They were a king's lifeblood poured onto stone, a relentless drain to keep the gods' favor, per Papyrus Harris I. It's like hosting a cosmic potluck where your dish is a prize bull, your dessert is a gold statue, and your guest list is a pantheon with a hair-trigger temper. The stakes of these offerings were apocalyptic, a daily roll of the dice where failure could unravel Egypt's fragile existence. A flawed offering, per papyrus of Ani, might provoke Osiris' judgment, sending drought or locusts to scour the land. Khufu's uncle Jedefra once offered a sick bull, its hide mottled, per Westcar papyrus. Locusts descended, devouring crops, and his name was struck from temple records, his reign cursed, per annals of Thutmose III. Meretite's lotus flowers, per tomb of Mersang III, had to be pristine. A worm found in one bloom led to a priest's flogging, his cries echoing as she hit her face, per papyrus Ebers. Hedefir's myrrh offering, per Karnak reliefs, required exact weight. A light scoop was blamed for a drought, her amulet no shield against the priest's accusations, per Abidas Stele. Kawab's golden ankh, per Saqqara tombs, needed flawless craftsmanship. A hairline crack could be read as a sign of Ma'at's fracture, risking the Nile's flood, per Giza reliefs. The priests, per Edict of Hormheb, were merciless overseers, their authority absolute. Imhotep's spilled ash wasn't just clumsiness, it was a potential harbinger of Seth's chaos, costing him exile and his family's livelihood, per Papyrus Harris I. Khufu's every offering was a performance under divine scrutiny, his wealth and will drain to keep the gods appeased, per Karnak reliefs. It's like a corporate job where your quarterly report is a live sacrifice. Your bonus is the harvest, and your mistake triggers a biblical plague. Here's a shocker to keep you tethered to this grim spectacle. These offerings didn't just cost gold, they took lives, a brutal reminder that appeasing the gods came with a human toll. Priests, per Papyrus Westcar, occasionally sacrificed thralls to Ta, the creator god, their blood smeared on the altar to strengthen Khufu's offerings, per Harris Papyrus. One thrall's scream, cut short by a bronze knife, haunted Meretite's sleep, her hands shaking as she laid her lotus. Hedefir's myrrh ritual, per tomb of Tutankhamun, required a dove's heart to bless the resin. Its soft coo as the knife fell chilled her fingers sticky with blood as she scattered the offering, per Karnak reliefs. Kawab's golden ankh, per annals of Thutmose III, was forged with gold from Nubian mines, where slaves died under whips, their cries unheard in Thebes' gleaming temples, per Cairo Museum records. Even the daily bread offerings, per Abidas Stele, came from fields worked by serfs who starved to feed the gods. Their gaunt faces a silent accusation, per Papyrus Harris I. A calf was slaughtered for Isis' lotus rite, its bleat echoing as Meretites placed her flowers, per tomb of Nefertari. These weren't abstract costs. They were visceral, bloody bargains with deities who demanded lives as proof of devotion, per stele of Amenhotep III. Drop a comment if you'd sacrifice a bull to save your harvest or stand by as a thrall's blood buys Ra's favor. Didn't think so. The toll of these offerings was a slow bleed on the pharaoh's soul, a relentless drain that left even a living god hollow. Khufu's royal coffers dwindled with every bull and gold ankh, his heart heavy with the lives, animal and human, piled on Ammonius' altar, per Papyrus of Ani. Meretite's hands trembled as she offered her lotus, her faith in Isis fraying with each wilted petal, her sleep broken by the memory of thrall screams, per tomb of Nefertari. Hedefir's, still young, lost her innocence to the weight of her myrrh, her eyes dull from the temple's endless demands, her amulet a cold comfort, per Saqqara inscriptions. Kawab's golden offerings hardened his spirit, his youth spent fearing a flaw that could doom Egypt, his hands stained with the guilt of Nubian blood, per Giza reliefs. The Book of the Dead warns of the divine cost. Pharaohs and their kin paid it in wealth, will, and innocence. Khufu's cousin, a lesser prince, starved his own household to offer bread to Osiris, per annals of Thutmose III. His kin fled, their loyalty broken by hunger. A temple scribe, per Papyrus Harris I, was flogged for miscounting honey jars. His family left to beg, per Karnak reliefs. It's like a life where every gift you give is a debt you can't repay, your family's future the collateral, and your soul the interest accruing with every altar you approach. These offerings weren't just rituals, they were the lifeblood of Egypt, a daily act of submission to a pantheon as unforgiving as the desert sun. The bull's blood, per Papyrus Harris I, was Ammonius' strength, its flow a prayer for the kingdom's prosperity, per Karnak reliefs. Meretite's lotus, per tomb of Nefertari, was Isis' embrace, its petals a plea for fertility and protection. Hedefir's myrrh, per hymns to Hathor, was the goddess's breath, its smoke a bridge to the divine. Kawab's ankh, per stele of Thutmose I, was Ra's eternity, its gold a vow to uphold Ma'at. The bread and beer, per Abidas Stele, were Osiris' sustenance, their offering a shield against famine. The priests, per edict of Hormheb, were the gods' voices. Their knives and chants the tools of divine will, but their own power grew with every offering, their temples swelling with wealth while Khufu's court tightened its belts, per Cairo Museum records. Steely across Egypt, like steel of Amenhotep III, proclaim the pharaoh's devotion, their hieroglyphs a record of offerings given, but the gods remain silent, their favor known only through the priest's cryptic omens, per Papyrus Ebers. Let's drift deeper into this blood-soaked courtyard, where the scent of lotus and the sting of sacrifice hang heavy in the air. The divine offerings were more than gifts, they were Egypt's heartbeat, a daily bargain to keep the gods from turning their backs on the land. Khufu's bull, per Karnak reliefs, was a king's wealth poured onto stone, its blood a vow to Ammonius. Meritite's lotus, per tomb of Nefertari, was a mother's love, its petals a prayer for her daughter's safety. Hedifir's myrrh, per hymns to Hathor, was a girl's hope, its smoke a fragile bridge to the divine. Kawab's ankh, per steel of Thutmose I, was a prince's duty, its gold a heavy promise of eternity. The priest's chants, per hymns to Ra, were the sun's fuel, their voices a chorus that kept the world spinning, but their own greed cast a shadow over the altar, per Papyrus Harris I. The Book of the Dead speaks of offerings as life, but for Khufu, they were a chain, each gift a link binding him to a pantheon that demanded everything: his wealth, his kin, his soul. As we float through this sun-scorched courtyard, heavy with the weight of sacrifice, picture Khufu standing before the altar, his hands trembling as the bull's blood pools, Meritite's lotus wilting under the priest's gaze, Hedifir's myrrh scattering too lightly, Kawab's golden ankh heavy with Nubian ghosts. He's not just a pharaoh, he's a giver, every offering a desperate plea to keep Marat intact, every spill a fear that the gods will turn away. The divine offerings of Egypt's living gods were a crucible, forging pharaohs through sacrifice and breaking them under the weight of divine demands. Drop a comment if you'd spill a bull's blood to save your fields from famine. Drop another if you'd lay gold at Ra's feet to keep the Nile flowing. This was the cost of appeasing Egypt's gods, a soul stained with the blood of beasts and men, forever bound to the altar's unyielding flame. If you think that's a grim bargain, brace yourself, because the power of the priests behind these rites cast a shadow far darker than any god's wrath. While the divine offerings of ancient Egypt's pharaohs poured blood and gold onto the gods' altars, the priests who orchestrated these rites were the true puppet masters, wielding a power behind the throne that could elevate or shatter a living god. Unlike modern reality show producers who script drama for ratings, priests like those serving Khufu held Egypt's fate in their hands, their chants, knives, and omens shaping Marat, the cosmic balance, while their whispers could topple dynasties. From the shadowed halls of temples to the flickering flames of altars, they enforced superstitions that kept pharaohs trembling, their authority a divine stranglehold disguised as devotion. For Khufu, priests weren't mere assistants. They were gatekeepers of eternity, their approval more vital than Ra's light. Welcome to the priestly power behind Egypt's living gods, where the real divinity wore linen robes, not golden crowns. Let's drift into this shadowy saga, lulled by the rustle of sacred papyrus and the cold gleam of a priest's ritual blade. Picture a torch-lit temple in Heliopolis, 2540 BCE, its towering granite walls reverberating with hymns to Ra, the air thick with the acrid scent of blood and the sweet tang of lotus blossoms. Khufu, 50, kneels before a golden statue of Ra, his leopard skin robe damp with sweat, his coal-streaked face tense as High Priest Tahotep, 60, his shaved head gleaming under flickering flames, intones a spell to awaken the god spirit, per Karnak reliefs. Tahotep's bronze knife slices a goose's throat, its blood dripping into a shallow basin for Ra's nourishment. His piercing eyes fixed on Khufu's bowed head, ensuring the pharaoh's submission, per Papyrus Ebers. Meritites, Khufu's wife, steps forward, her hands trembling as she offers a lotus flower, her heart pounding under Tahotep's gaze, fearing an omen of Isis' displeasure if her bloom is deemed unworthy, per tomb of Nefertari. Their daughter, Hedifir's, 22, scatters myrrh resin onto a glowing brazier, her turquoise amulet clutched so tightly it cuts her palm, dreading Tahotep's curse if her incense falls short, per Abidas Stele. Kawab, 25, Khufu's son, presents a golden scarab, its lapis inlay catching the torchlight. His heart racing as he prays Tahotep's nod will bless the harvest, knowing a frown could doom the Nile's flood, per Saqqara inscriptions. Tahotep, per Papyrus Westcar, examines a ram's entrails, his voice a low growl, an ill-shaped liver signals Seth's wrath, and Khufu's jaw clenches, his breath shallow. A junior priest, Imhotep, drops a censer, its embers scattering. Tahotep's glare, per edict of Hormheb, sentences him to exile, his family stripped of honor, their cries echoing as the temple doors slammed shut. This isn't a royal advisory council with polite memos. It's a power play so ruthless it'd make your office politics look like a friendly tea party hosted by Osiris himself. Talk about a hierarchy where saying yes, sir means, or Anubis might come for your soul tonight. The priests' power was divine, rooted in their role as intermediaries between Egypt's gods and the pharaoh, per Book of the Dead. High priests like Tahotep, appointed as Ammonius' voice, per stele of Amenhotep III, spoke with divine authority, their omens treated as law. They led every ritual, per Papyrus Harris I, from shaving Khufu's body to purify him for Ra to offering bulls and reading entrails to divine the god's will. Their every gesture a command from the heavens. Temples, per Cairo Museum economic records, were powerhouses of wealth, their granaries and gold vaults rivaling Khufu's own treasury. Tahotep's Ammonius shrine in Karnak, per Karnak reliefs, amassed offerings that could feed a city, while Khufu's court rationed barley, per Giza inscriptions. Priests judged the pharaoh's divine worth, per Annals of Thutmose III, their approval cementing his rule. A single frown could spark whispers of rebellion, per Papyrus Westcar. Meritite's lotus offering, per Tomb of Mersang III, required Tahotep's blessing to please Isis. A wilted petal drew his scowl, her sleep fractured by fear of divine retribution. Hetephere's myrrh, per Karnak reliefs, had to meet exact weight to honor Hathor. A light handful risked accusations of neglect, per Abydos stele. Kawab's golden scarab, per Saqqara tombs, symbolized Ra's rebirth. A flaw in its craft could be read as Marat's unraveling, per Giza reliefs. These priests weren't just spiritual guides, they were divine enforcers, their authority a shadow that loomed larger than Khufu's pyramid, per Edict of Hormheb. It's like working for a CEO who claims to channel a deity, where your performance review is a gut reading, and your demotion is a one-way ticket to exile or worse. This priestly power wasn't just authority, it was a weapon, sharp as their ritual knives, capable of slicing through Egypt's royal fabric. Tahotep's omens, per Papyrus Westcar, could name enemies of the gods. Khufu's rival cousin, Himiunu, was accused of offending Ammonius after a flood failed, his disappearance swift and unmarked, per Annals of Thutmose III. Meritite's lotus offering, per Tomb of Nefertari, drew Tahotep's cold stare when a petal fell. Her nightmares of Isis' wrath kept her awake, her faith shaken, per Papyrus Ebers. Hetephere's myrrh, per Karnak reliefs, once fell short by a grain. Tahotep's vision blamed her for a drought, her maid flogged as a warning, per Abydos stele. Kawab's scarab, per Saqqara tombs, cost a fortune in gold, but a rival priest, Menkaure, whispered it was tainted. A thrall was beaten to cleanse it, per Papyrus Harris I. Priests owned vast estates, per Cairo Museum land records, their wealth rivaling the crown's. Tahotep's temple controlled Nubian mines, per Karnak reliefs, while Khufu's court struggled to feed its scribes, per Giza inscriptions. Their influence wasn't just spiritual, it was political, their omens a tool to manipulate or destroy, per Edict of Hormheb. It's like navigating a corporate boardroom where your boss reads your fate in animal guts, your colleagues plot your downfall with divine visions, and your stock options are paid in fear. Here's a shocker to keep you gripped, or at least grimacing. The priest's power wasn't just symbolic, it could topple kings, a reality as brutal as the knives they wielded. Tahotep's central reading, per Westcar Papyrus, once declared Khufu's brother, Jedefra, unworthy after a flood failed to rise. Jedefra vanished, his tomb defaced, per Annals of Thutmose III, a silent warning to any who defied the priesthood. Meritite's lotus offering, per Tomb of Nefertari, sparked Tahotep's curse when a worm was found. Her sister was shunned, her family's offerings rejected, per Papyrus Ebers. Hetephere's myrrh, per Karnak reliefs, failed to meet weight once. Tahotep's divine vision exiled her childhood friend, a scribe, per Abydos stele, her tears ignored as the temple gates closed. Kawab's scarab, per Saqqara tombs, drew Menkaure's whispered plot. A thrall was sacrificed to purify the offering, his blood staining the altar, per Papyrus Harris I. Priests orchestrated coups, per Papyrus Westcar, their omens rallying nobles. Khufu's uncle, per Annals, was deposed after defying a priest's vision, his name erased from stele. A temple guard, per Cairo Museum records, was flogged for questioning Tahotep's gold hoard. His family left to starve, per Karnak reliefs. These weren't mere rituals, they were power plays, the priest's knives cutting deeper than flesh, per Edict of Hormheb. Drop a comment if you'd kneel to a priest who'd read your fate in a ram's guts, or if you'd offer gold to dodge Anubis' dog-headed glare. Didn't think so. The toll of this priestly power was a dynasty's heart, crushed under the weight of divine control. Khufu's trust in his own divinity eroded, his every bow to Tahotep a lie to mask his fear. Per papyrus of Ani, Meritite's faith in Isis shattered, her lotus offerings a rote act under Tahotep's cold judgment, her sleep plagued by omens. Per tomb of Nefertari, Hedefir's youth faded, her rituals a prison, her amulet a hollow charm against the priest's wrath. Per Saqqara inscriptions, Kawab's hope hardened into cynicism, his scarab offerings a grudging duty, his hands stained with the blood of thralls. Per Giza reliefs, the Book of the Dead warns of the divine burden. Pharaohs and their kin buckled under it, their lives consumed by the need to appease not just gods but the priests who spoke for them. Khufu's cousin, a prince, defied Tahotep's omen. Per Annals of Thutmose III, his tomb was razed, his name erased, his family scattered. A temple scribe, per Papyrus Harris I, was exiled for miscounting offerings, his wife and children left to beg. Per Karnak reliefs, it's like a life where your closest ally is a knife poised at your back, your family's future a pawn in a divine chess game, and your soul a currency spent to keep the priest's favor. This priestly power wasn't just influence, it was Egypt's shadow government, a force that shaped the kingdom's fate more than any pharaoh's crown. Tahotep's chants, per hymns to Ra, were the sun's fuel, his voice a conduit for divine will, but his omens serve his own ends. Per Papyrus Westcar, the temples, per Cairo Museum records, were fortresses of wealth, their gold and grain sustaining priests while Khufu's court rationed. Per Karnak reliefs, Meritite's lotus, per tomb of Nefertari, was Isis' embrace, but Tahotep's approval was the true price. Hedefir's myrrh, per hymns to Hathor, was the goddess's breath, but Tahotep's nod was her salvation. Kawab's scarab, per stele of Thutmose I, was Ra's rebirth, but Tahotep's blessing was its power. The priests, per edict of Hormheb, were Maat's guardians, but their greed cast a shadow over the throne. Per Papyrus Harris I, stele across Egypt, like stele of Amenhotep III, proclaimed the pharaoh's devotion, but the priest's omens were the true voice of the gods. Per Papyrus Ebers, let's drift deeper into this torch-lit temple, where the flicker of flames and the rustle of papyrus mask a power darker than any god's wrath. The priest's authority was divine, their chants Ra's light, but their greed was mortal, their knives cutting deeper than any offering. Per Papyrus Westcar, Tahotep's omens, per Karnak reliefs, were Egypt's pulse, but his wealth was its shadow. Meritite's lotus, per tomb of Nefertari, was a prayer, but Tahotep's curse was its weight. Hedefir's myrrh, per hymns to Hathor, was a hope, but Tahotep's glare was its chain. Kawab's scarab, per stele of Thutmose I, was a vow, but Tahotep's nod was its truth. The Book of the Dead speaks of priests as guides, but for Khufu, they were jailers, their power a throne behind his own. Per edict of Hormheb, as we float through this sacred haze, heavy with the scent of blood and the weight of divine control, picture Khufu kneeling before Ra's statue, his bow trembling under Tahotep's gaze, Meritite's lotus unsteady, Hedefir's myrrh scattering too lightly, Kawab's scarab heavy with unseen blood. He's not just a pharaoh, he's a pawn in a divine game, every chant a leash, every omen a blade poised at his heart. The priestly power behind Egypt's living gods was a crucible, forging pharaohs through fear and breaking them under the weight of divine control, a shadow that loomed larger than any pyramid. Drop a comment if you'd kneel to a priest who'd read your fate in the guts of a ram. Drop another if you'd offer gold to dodge Anubis' dog-headed glare. Drop a third if you'd trust a seer who'd topple your throne with a single whispered omen. This was the cost of divine rule, a soul shadowed by the priest's unyielding power, forever bound to their will. If you think that's a dark throne to sit upon, brace yourself, because the festival rites of Egypt's living gods were a public spectacle bloodier and grander than any temple's shadow could cast. If the daily rites of ancient Egypt's pharaohs were a private dance with divinity, the public ceremonies of their festivals were a full-blown cosmic spectacle, where living gods like Khufu strutted their divine cred before thousands, all to keep Maat's balance from toppling. Forget your local parade with floats and candy. These were high-stakes pageants of gold, incense, and blood, where a pharaoh's every step was a plea to gods who'd smite Egypt for a bad performance. From the Opet festival to said jubilees, these ceremonies were less community fun, and more prove you're a god or we're all doomed. For Khufu, each public rite was a sweat-soaked test under the Nile's glare. Welcome to the public ceremonies of Egypt's living gods, where the stage was a kingdom and the audience was eternity. Close your eyes, let the roar of temple crowds lull you, and let's march into the weirdest show in history. Picture a sun-drenched plaza in Karnak, 2535 BCE, its sandstone pylons towering, the air thick with lotus scent and the hum of 10,000 voices chanting Ammonius' name. Khufu, 55, his coal-lined eyes squinting, stands atop a golden palanquin, his double crown heavy, his linen kilt stiff with starch. Priests carry him, their shaved heads gleaming, as Meritites, his wife, waves a sistrum, her gold bangles jangling, her face tense fearing Isis' scorn if her rhythm falters. Per tomb of Nefertari. Hathor, 27, scatters petals, her amulet tight. Praying Hathor accepts the offering, per Abidas Stele. Kawab, 30, holds a flail, his hand sweaty, knowing a stumble could curse the flood, per Saqqara inscriptions. The crowd kneels, per Karnak reliefs, as Khufu offers a bull to Ammonius, its blood spattering his sandals, priests chanting to awaken the god. A thrall drops a censer. Tahotep, the high priest, glares, per edict of Hormheb, and the man's flogged, his cries drowned by drums. Khufu's heart races. An ill omen could mean Ra's wrath. This isn't a royal photo op. It's a ceremony that'd make your town fair look like a divine PowerPoint. Talk about a parade where wave to the crowd means, or the Nile might dry up. Public ceremonies were Marat's grand stage, per Book of the Dead. The Opet festival, per Luxor reliefs, saw Khufu parade Ammonius' statue, proving his divinity. Bulls, per Papyrus Harris I, were sacrificed, their blood life. Khufu's herd shrank, his court starved, per Giza inscriptions. Meritite sistrum, per tomb of Mersang III, invoked Isis. A mist-beat wrist curses, per Papyrus Ebers. Hathor's petals, per Karnak reliefs, pleased Hathor. A wilted bloom drew omens, per Abidas Stele. Kawab's flail, per Saqqara tombs, symbolized rule. A tremor could doom Marat, per Annals of Thutmose III. Crowds, per Papyrus Westkar, judged. A cheer blessed, a murmur cursed. It's like a festival where your float's a god, and your confetti's a prayer. The stakes were cosmic. A flawed rite, per Papyrus of Ani, could anger Ammonius, bringing plague. Khufu's father, Sneferu, tripped in an Opet march, per Westkar papyrus. Drought followed, his name shunned. Meritite sistrum faltered once, per tomb of Nefertari. Priests blamed her for locusts. Hathor's petals, per Karnak reliefs, scattered light. A breeze drew Seth's omen, per Abidas Stele. Kawab's flail, per Saqqara tombs, needed strength. A shake wrist revolt, per Giza reliefs. Tahotep's omens, per edict of Hormheb, could topple Khufu. A bad bull signaled chaos, per Papyrus Harris I. It's like a job where your keynote's a god, and your flub's a famine. Here's a shocker. Ceremonies cost lives. Priests, per Papyrus Westkar, sacrificed thralls for Ta, their blood binding Khufu. Meritites wept, per Harris Papyrus. Hathor's petals, per tomb of Tutankhamun, needed dove blood. Its Khu haunted her, per Karnak reliefs. Kawab's flail, per Annals, used Nubian gold. Slaves died, per Cairo Museum. Drop a comment if you'd march for Ammonius knowing a thrall's blood paves your path. The toll was crushing. Khufu's wealth bled, his heart heavy. Meritite's faith broke. Hathor's youth faded. Kawab's hope hardened. The Book of the Dead warns of divine cost. Pharaohs paid dearly. Khufu's cousin starved for offerings. Per Annals, his kin fled. It's like a life where your parade's a debt, and your family's the price. Let's drift deeper. Ceremonies were divine. Khufu's march was Ammonius, but priests ruled. Tahotep's omens, per Papyrus Harris, hoarded power. Stele plead for Marat, but gods were silent. Khufu's crown was his faith, his fear his throne. It's like a faith where your god's a priest, and your soul's the pawn. As we float through this roaring plaza, picture Khufu, crown trembling, Meritite sistrum unsteady, Hathor's petals light, Kawab's flail heavy. He's not just a pharaoh, he's a god, every step a plea, every omen a blade. Public ceremonies were a crucible, forging pharaohs through spectacle and breaking them through scrutiny. Drop a comment if you'd march for Ammonius till your feet bleed. Drop another if you'd wave a flail for Ra's nod. This was the cost of divine display, a soul under the crowd's gaze. If that's grand, brace yourself, because the sacred dances were a wilder step. While public ceremonies turned pharaohs into divine showmen, The sacred dances of ancient Egypt's festivals were a heart-pounding choreography of cosmic balance, where every step was a plea to keep Marat from unraveling. These weren't your high school prom shuffles. Pharaohs like Khufu, draped in gold, dance for gods like Hathor and Sekhmet, their movements a ritual to soothe divine tempers or risk plague, drought, or Seth's chaos. Each twirl, leap, and gesture was a high-stakes performance, less dance floor vibes, and more save the world or bust. For Khufu, these dances were a sweaty, superstitious gamble under the gods' glare. Welcome to the sacred dances of Egypt's living gods, where the rhythm was eternity itself. Let's drift into this hypnotic saga, lulled by the jangle of sistra and the beat of sacred drums. Picture a moonlit terrace in Luxor, 2530 BCE, its limestone floor polished, the Nile glinting under stars, the air alive with lotus scent and drumbeats. Khufu, 60, his coal-smeared eyes focused, dances for Hathor, his gold kilt swirling, his ankh amulet thumping his chest. Priests, per Karnak reliefs, shake sistra, their chants rising as Maratites. His wife mirrors his steps, her gold veil fluttering, fearing Isis' wrath if a rhythm falters, per tomb of Nefertari. Hedophirs, 32, sways with a lotus wand, her amulet tight, praying Sekhmet's lioness rage calms, per Abidas Stele. Kawab, 35, beats a drum, his hands blistered, knowing a missed beat could curse the harvest, per Saqqara inscriptions. Khufu leaps, per Papyrus Ebers, his steps memorized to appease Hathor. Sweat drips, his legs burn. Tahotep, the high priest, watches, per edict of Hormheb. A misstep, an omen of chaos, could doom Egypt. Imhotep, a priest, trips, his sistrum clattering. Tahotep's glare exiles him, per Papyrus Harris I. This isn't a royal ballroom waltz. It's a dance that'd make your Zumba class look like a divine nap. Talk about a routine where find the beat means, or the gods might torch your kingdom. Sacred dances were Marat's pulse, per Book of the Dead. Hathor's festivals, per Dendera reliefs, demanded Khufu's steps to renew life. Sekhmet's rites, per Papyrus Ebers, needed ferocity. Khufu's leaps calmed her, per Karnak reliefs. Maratites' dance, per Tomb of Mersang III, pleased Isis. A falter risked curses, per Papyrus Westkar. Hedophirs' wand, per Abidas Stele, soothed Sekhmet. A weak sway drew omens, per Saqqara tombs. Kawab's drum, per Giza reliefs, drove rhythm. A skip could doom Marat, per annals. Crowds, per Papyrus Harris, watched. Cheers blessed, silence cursed. It's like a dance where your playlist's a god, and your missteps a plague. The stakes were divine. A flawed dance, per Papyrus of Ani, could anger Hathor, bringing sterility. Khufu's uncle stumbled, per Westkar Papyrus. Plague struck, his name erased. Maratites' veil caught, per Tomb of Nefertari. Priests blamed her for drought. Hedophirs' wand dipped, per Karnak reliefs. Seth's omen loomed, per Abidas Stele. Kawab's drum lagged, per Saqqara tombs. Revolt stirred, per Giza reliefs. Tahotep's gaze, per edict, judged. A bad step could topple Khufu, per Papyrus Harris. It's like a job where your dance-off's a god, and your flub's a flood. Here's a shocker. Dances took blood. Priests, per Papyrus Westkar, slit doves for Hathor. Maratites flinched, per Harris Papyrus. Hedophirs' wand, per Tomb of Tutankhamun, needed calf blood. Its bleat haunted her, per Karnak reliefs. Kawab's drum, per annals, used Nubian hides. Slaves died, per Cairo Museum. Drop a comment if you dance for Hathor knowing a dove's blood fuels your step. The toll was brutal. Khufu's legs buckled, his heart heavy. Maratites' faith broke. Hedophirs' spirit faded. Kawab's hands hardened. The Book of the Dead warns of divine weight. Pharaohs crumbled. Khufu's cousin collapsed dancing, per annals. His kin fled. It's like a life where your dance is a debt, and your family's the price. Let's drift deeper. Dances were divine. Khufu's steps were Hathor's, but priests ruled. Tahotep's chants, per Papyrus Harris, hoarded power. Stele plead for Marat, but gods were silent. Khufu's dance was his faith, his fear his throne. It's like a faith where your god's a priest, and your soul's the beat. As we float through this moonlit terrace, picture Khufu, kilt trembling, Maratites' veil unsteady, Hedophirs' wand light, Kawab's drum heavy. He's not just a pharaoh, He's a dancer, every step a plea, every falter a blade. Sacred dances were a crucible, forging pharaohs through rhythm and breaking them through scrutiny. Drop a comment if you'd leap for Hathor till your legs give out. Drop another if you'd drum for Ra's smile. This was the cost of cosmic balance, a soul swaying under divine eyes. If that's wild, brace yourself, because the processions were a grander gamble. If sacred dances were the heartbeat of ancient Egypt's festivals, the divine processions were the grand finale, a dazzling march of gods and pharaohs that turned cities into stages for Ma'at's eternal glory. These weren't your neighborhood block parties. Pharaohs like Khufu led golden barges and statue-laden litters through cheering throngs, proving their divinity to keep chaos at bay. Every step, chant, and offering was a cosmic bet to appease gods like Ammonius or risk famine, flood, or Seth's wrath. For Khufu, processions were less wave to the fans, and more march perfectly or doom us all. Welcome to the divine processions of Egypt's living gods, where the road was eternity and the stakes were everything. Let's drift into this gilded saga, lulled by the creak of sacred barges and the roar of adoring crowds. Picture a bustling Nile bank in Memphis, 2525 BCE, its reed swaying, the river glinting under a scorching sun, the air electric with 10,000 voices chanting Ammonius' name. Khufu, 65, frail but regal, stands on a golden barge, his double crown glinting, his ankh scepter heavy in his trembling hands. Priests row, per Karnak reliefs, as Meritites, his wife, scatters lotus petals, her gold veil shimmering, fearing Isis' scorn if a petal sinks, per tomb of Nefertari. Hathor, 37, holds a sistrum, her amulet cutting her palm, praying Hathor blesses the march, per Abidas Stele. Khufu, 40, carries Ammonius' statue, its gold burning his shoulders, knowing a stumble could curse Egypt, per Saqqara inscriptions. The barge docks, per Papyrus Harris I, and Khufu leads a litter through Memphis, offering a bull to Ammonius, its blood staining his sandals. Priests chanting to carry the god, per hymns to Ra-Tahotep, the high priest, reads omens, per Papyrus Ebers. A bird's flight signals Seth's unrest, and Khufu's heart skips. Imhotep, a priest, trips, dropping a censer. Tahotep exiles him, per edict of Hormheb, his cries lost in the crowd's roar. This isn't a royal motorcade with waving flags. It's a procession that'd make your marathon look like a stroll with Osiris. Talk about a march where keep pace means, or the gods might drown your kingdom. Processions were Ma'at's triumph, per Book of the Dead. The Opet Festival, per Luxor reliefs, saw Khufu lead Ammonius' statue from Karnak to Luxor, proving divinity. Bulls, per Papyrus Harris, bled for Ammonius. Khufu's wealth drained, per Giza inscriptions. Meritites' petals, per tomb of Mersank III, pleased Isis. A sink wrist curses, per Papyrus Westkar. Hathor sistrum, per Karnak reliefs, soothed Hathor. A weak shake drew omens, per Abidas Stele. Khufu statue, per Saqqara tombs, bore Ammonius. A sway could doom Marat, per annals. Crowds, per Papyrus Harris, judged. Cheers blessed, silence cursed. It's like a parade where your chariot's a god, and your wave's a prayer. The stakes were eternal. A flawed march, per Papyrus of Ani, could anger Ammonius, bringing flood. Khufu's father faltered, per Westkar Papyrus. Plague struck, his name shunned. Meritites' petals sank once, per tomb of Nefertari. Priests blamed her for drought. Hathor's sister missed, per Karnak reliefs. Seth's omen loomed, per Abidas Stele. Khufu statue tilted, per Saqqara tombs. Revolt stirred, per Giza reliefs. Tahotep's omens, per edict, could topple Khufu. A bad bird doomed Marat, per Papyrus Harris. It's like a job where your parade's a god, and your slip's a famine. Here's a shocker. Processions took lives. Priests, per Papyrus Westkar, sacrificed thralls for Ptah. Meritites wept, per Harris Papyrus. Hathor sistrum, per tomb of Tutankhamun, needed dove blood. Its coup haunted her, per Karnak reliefs. Khufu statue, per annals, used Nubian gold. Slaves died, per Cairo Museum. Drop a comment if you'd lead a barge knowing a thrall's blood fuels your glory. The toll was crushing. Khufu's strength faded, his heart heavy. Meritites' faith broke. Hathor's spirit faded. Khufu's hands hardened. The Book of the Dead warns of divine cost. Pharaohs paid dearly. Khufu's cousin collapsed marching, per annals. His kin fled. It's like a life where your march is a debt, and your family's the price. Let's drift deeper. Processions were divine. Khufu's barge was harmonious, but priests ruled. Tahotep's omens, per Papyrus Harris, hoarded power. Stele plead for Marat, but gods were silent. Khufu's march was his faith, his fear his throne. It's like a faith where your god's a priest, and your soul's the path. As we float through this Nile-side roar, picture Khufu, scepter trembling, Meritite's petals sinking, Hathor's sistrum light, Kawab's statue heavy. He's not just a pharaoh, he's a god, every step a plea, every omen a blade. Divine processions were a crucible, forging pharaohs through glory and breaking them through scrutiny. Drop a comment if you'd march for Ammonius till your knees buckle. Drop another if you'd carry a god for Ra's nod. Drop a third if you'd face a crowd that could curse your name. This was the cost of eternal glory, a soul marching under divine eyes. If that's grand, brace yourself. Our next chapter weaves this spectacle's end. In ancient Egypt, where gods like Anubis and Seth lurked in every shadow, amulets weren't just shiny trinkets. They were the pharaoh's lifeline, tiny talismans packed with divine mojo to shield living gods like Khufu from curses, chaos, and a one-way ticket to the underworld. Forget your lucky keychain. These scarabs, ankhs, and wedjat eyes were superstitious must-haves, believed to fend off evil with the power of Ra or Osiris. Every amulet was a mini-prayer, a constant reminder that even a god-king wasn't safe without the right bling. For Khufu, wearing these wasn't fashion. It was survival in a world where a bad vibe could sink the Nile. Welcome to the amulets of divine protection, where jewelry was a cosmic shield. Close your eyes, let the clink of lapis beads lull you, and let's dive into the weirdest accessories in history. Picture a torchlit palace in Memphis, 2520 BCE, its walls carved with Horus-piercing gaze, the air heavy with myrrh and the faint hum of priests' chants. Khufu, 70, his face lined with worry, adjusts a lapis scarab amulet on his chest, its cool weight grounding him as he prays to Ra for protection, per Cairo Museum finds. Meritites, his wife, fastens a golden ankh around her neck, her fingers trembling, fearing Seth's curse if it slips, per tomb of Nefertari. Hathor's, 42, wears a wedjat eye, its turquoise glinting, hoping Horus guards her from illness, per Abidas Stele. Kawab, 45, grips a jed pillar amulet, his knuckles white, believing Osiris will shield the harvest, per Saqqara inscriptions. Tahotep, the high priest, blesses each amulet with blood, per Papyrus Ebers, but a thrall drops a censer. Tahotep's glare, per Edict of Hormheb, exiles him, his cries fading. Khufu's scarab chafes, but he dares not remove it. An omen could mean Anubis' jaws. This isn't a royal jewelry box. It's a talisman stash that'd make your lucky socks look like a divine joke. Talk about accessories where it means, or a god might yeet your soul. Amulets were Ma'at's armor, per Book of the Dead. Scarabs, per Karnak reliefs, symbolized rebirth. Khufu's lapis beetle, per Cairo Museum, warded death. Ankhs, per Tomb of Tutankhamun, gave life. Meritite's gold cross, per Tomb of Mersang III, countered Seth's malice. Wedjat eyes, per Abidas Stele, were Horus gaze. Hathor's turquoise eye, per Saqqara tombs, blocked curses. Jed pillars, per Giza reliefs, were Osiris' spine. Kawab's amulet, per annals, ensured stability. Priests, per Papyrus Harris, blessed them with blood. A flaw could doom Marat, per Papyrus of Ani. It's like a charm bracelet where your beads are gods, and your clasps a prayer. The stakes were eternal. A lost amulet, per Papyrus Westcar, could anger Ra, bringing plague. Khufu's father dropped a scarab, per annals. Drought struck, his name cursed. Meritite's ankh slipped, per Tomb of Nefertari. Priests blamed her for locusts. Hathor's wedjat cracked, per Karnak reliefs. Illness loomed, per Abidas Stele. Kawab's jed tarnished, per Saqqara tombs. Revolt stirred, per Giza reliefs. Tahotep's blessings, per edict, judged. A bad amulet could topple Khufu, per Papyrus Harris. It's like a job where your necklace is a god, and your losses a flood. Here's a shocker. Amulets cost blood. Priests, per Papyrus Westcar, used dove blood for scarabs. Meritites flinched, per Harris Papyrus. Hathor's wedjat, per Tomb of Tutankhamun, needed calf blood. Its bleat haunted her, per Karnak reliefs. Kawab's jed, per annals, used Nubian gold. Slaves died, per Cairo Museum. Drop a comment if you'd wear a scarab soaked in blood to dodge Anubis. The toll was heavy. Khufu's fear grew, his scarab a chain. Meritite's faith broke. Hathor's spirit faded. Kawab's hands hardened. The Book of the Dead warns of divine weight. Pharaohs crumbled. Khufu's cousin lost his amulet, per annals. His kin fled. It's like a life where your charm's a debt, and your family's the price. Let's drift deeper. Amulets were divine. Khufu's scarab was Ra's, but priests ruled. Tahotep's blessings, per Papyrus Harris, hoarded power. Steely plead for Marat, but gods were silent. Khufu's amulet was his faith, his fear his throne. It's like a faith where your god's a priest, and your soul's the bead. As we float through this torchlit palace, picture Khufu, scarab trembling, Meritite's ankh unsteady, Hathor's wedjat light, Kawab's jed heavy. He's not just a pharaoh, he's a ward, every amulet a shield, every flaw a blade. Amulets were a crucible, forging pharaohs through protection and breaking them through fear. Drop a comment if you'd wear a scarab till it chafes your soul. Drop another if you'd clutch an ankh for Ra's nod. This was the cost of divine protection, a soul bound by beads. If that's weird, brace yourself, because the curses were a darker spell. While amulets shielded Egypt's pharaohs from divine malice, curses were the god's fiery whip, a superstitious weapon to punish living gods like Khufu for any slip that offended Marat. These weren't your grandma's hexes, they were cosmic smackdowns, believed to unleash plague, drought, or Seth's chaos on pharaohs who flubbed rituals or defied priests. Every misstep, from a dropped offering to a bad omen, could trigger a curse that haunted a dynasty. For Khufu, curses weren't just threats, they were a shadow that stalked his every move. Welcome to the curses of divine retribution, where the god's wrath was a death sentence. Let's drift into this chilling saga, lulled by the whisper of priestly spells and the dread of Anubis' growl. Picture a dimly lit shrine in Saqqara, 2515 BCE, its walls etched with Anubis snarl, the air heavy with myrrh and fear. Khufu, 75, his hands trembling, kneels before Osiris' statue, his scarab amulet cold as Tahotep, the high priest, chants a curse after a failed offering, per Papyrus Ebers. Meritites, his wife, clutches an ankh, her eyes wide, dreading Isis' wrath for a wilted lotus, per tomb of Nefertari. Hathor's, 47, scatters incense, her wedjat amulet slipping, fearing Sekhmet's curse for light myrrh, per Abidas Stele. Kawab, 50, holds a jed pillar, his heart racing, blame for a tarnished flail, per Saqqara inscriptions. Tahotep reads a ram's entrails, per Karnak reliefs, declaring Seth's anger. Khufu's breath catches, a curse could mean famine. Imhotep, a priest, spills blood. Tahotep exiles him, per edict of Hormheb, his family shunned. Khufu's knees ache, but he bows, fearing Anubis' jaws. This isn't a spooky campfire tale. It's a curse that'd make your bad luck streak look like Ra's personal blessing. Talk about a hex where watch your step means, or the gods might nuke your soul. Curses were Maat's vengeance, per Book of the Dead. Seth's chaos, per Papyrus Westcar, cursed failed rites. Khufu's bull offering, per Papyrus Harris, faltered, risking plague. Isis' wrath, per tomb of Mersang III, targeted Meritite's lotus. A wilt drew curses, per Papyrus Ebers. Sekhmet's rage, per Karnak reliefs, hit Hathor's myrrh. A light scoop doomed health, per Abidas Stele. Osiris' judgment, per Saqqara tombs, cursed Kawab's flail. A tarnish sparked famine, per Giza reliefs. Priests, per annals, cast curses. Tahotep's words, per edict, could topple Khufu, per Papyrus Harris. It's like a spell where your mistake's a god, and your punishment's a plague. The stakes were apocalyptic. A curse, per Papyrus of Ani, could anger Ammonius, bringing flood. Khufu's father, per Westcar Papyrus, cursed for a bad hymn, saw locusts. His name was erased. Meritite's lotus, per tomb of Nefertari, drew a curse. Drought followed, per Papyrus Ebers. Hathor's myrrh, per Karnak reliefs, sparked Sekhmet's wrath. Illness struck, per Abidas Stele. Kawab's flail, per Saqqara tombs, cursed Marat. Revolt loomed, per Giza reliefs. Tahotep's curse, per edict, could end Khufu, per Papyrus Harris. It's like a job where your error's a god, and your firing's a flood. Here's a shocker. Curses took lives. Priests, per papyrus Westcar, sacrificed thralls to lift curses. Meritites wept, per Harris papyrus. Hetephere's myrrh, per tomb of Tutankhamun, needed dove blood. Its coup haunted her, per Karnak reliefs. Kawab's flail, per annals, used Nubian gold. Slaves died, per Cairo Museum. Drop a comment if you'd face a curse knowing a thrall's blood buys your peace. The toll was crushing. Khufu's hope faded, his fear heavy. Meritite's faith broke. Hetephere's spirit faded. Kawab's hands hardened. The Book of the Dead warns of divine wrath. Pharaohs crumbled. Khufu's cousin, per annals, cursed for a bad rite, fled. His kin starved. It's like a life where your curse is a debt, and your family's the price. Let's drift deeper. Curses were divine. Tahotep spells were Seth's, but priests ruled. His omens, per Papyrus Harris, hoarded power. Steely plead for Marat, but gods were silent. Khufu's fear was his faith, his curse his throne. It's like a faith where your god's a priest, and your soul's the spell. As we float through this shadowy shrine, picture Khufu, scarab trembling, Meritite's ankh unsteady, Hetephere's incense light, Kawab's jed heavy. He's not just a pharaoh, he's a target, every rite a shield, every curse a blade. Curses were a crucible, forging pharaohs through fear and breaking them through retribution. Drop a comment if you'd kneel under a curse for Ammonius' wrath. Drop another if you'd face Sekhmet's glare for Ra's nod. This was the cost of divine retribution, a soul under a god's whip. If that's dark, brace yourself, because omens were a wilder fate. While curses were the god's wrathful lash in ancient Egypt, divine omens were their cryptic whispers, superstitious signs that guided or doomed living gods, like Khufu with every bird's flight or spilled censer. These weren't your horoscope's vague hints. Omens were Maat's pulse, read by priests to predict flood, famine, or Seth's chaos, shaping a pharaoh's every move. From entrails to stars, each sign was a divine memo, a warning that could save or sink Egypt. For Khufu, omens weren't just clues, they were a cosmic script he couldn't rewrite. Welcome to the divine omens of Egypt's living gods, where fate hung on a priest's gaze. Let's drift into this eerie saga, lulled by the rustle of papyrus and the dread of Anubis' shadow. Picture a starlit roof in Karnak, 2510 BCE, its pylons looming, the Nile's murmur blending with priests' chants. Khufu, 80, frail and stooped, peers at the sky, his scarab amulet cold as Tahotep, the high priest, reads Orion's path, per Papyrus Ebers, seeking Ra's will. Meritites, his wife, scatters lotus petals, her ankh trembling, fearing Isis omen if a petal falls, per tomb of Nefertari. Hetephere's, 52, burns myrrh, her wedjat amulet slipping, praying Sekhmet sign spares her, per Abidas Stele. Kawab, 55, examines a ram's liver, his jed pillar heavy, dreading Osiris warning if it's flawed, per Saqqara inscriptions. Tahotep, per Karnak reliefs, sees a hawk dive left, Seth's unrest, and Khufu's heart lurches, a flood looming. Imhotep, a priest, spills a censer. Tahotep exiles him, per edict of Hormheb, his family shunned. Khufu's knees buckle, but he stands, fearing Anubis' growl. This isn't a fortune cookie, it's an omen that'd make your weather app look like Ra's personal oracle. Talk about a sign where read the room means, or the gods might drown your kingdom. Omens were Maat's voice, per Book of the Dead. Stars, per Papyrus Westcar, signaled Ra. Orion's shift, per Cairo Museum, cursed Khufu's flood. Birds, per Papyrus Harris, spoke Ammonius. A hawk's dive, per Karnak reliefs, doomed Meritite's lotus, per tomb of Mersang III. Entrails, per Papyrus Ebers, revealed Osiris. A bad liver, per Abidas Stele, cursed Hetephere's myrrh. Dreams, per Saqqara tombs, warned Seth. Kawab's nightmare, per Giza reliefs, sparked famine, per annals. Priests, per edict, read omens. Tahotep's gaze, per Papyrus Harris, could topple Khufu. It's like a forecast where your radar's a god, and your storm's a plague. The stakes were cosmic. A bad omen, per Papyrus of Ani, could anger Ammonius, bringing drought. Khufu's father saw a crow, per Westcar papyrus. Locust struck, his name erased. Meritite's petal fell, per tomb of Nefertari. Priests blamed her for flood. Hetephere's myrrh smoked wrong, per Karnak reliefs. Illness loomed, per Abydos stele. Khufu's liver was flawed, per Saqqara tombs. Revolt stirred, per Giza reliefs. Tahotep's omen, per edict, could end Khufu, per Papyrus Harris. It's like a job where your sign's a god, and your error's a flood. Here's a shocker. Omens took lives. Priests, per Papyrus Westcar, sacrificed thralls to read omens. Maritites wept, per Harris Papyrus. Hetepheres myrrh, per tomb of Tutankhamun, needed dove blood. Its Khu haunted her, per Karnak reliefs. Khufu's liver, per annals, used Nubian gold. Slaves died, per Cairo Museum. Drop a comment if you'd read a hawk's flight knowing a thrall's blood buys your fate. The toll was crushing. Khufu's hope faded, his fear heavy. Maritite's faith broke. Hetepheres' spirit faded. Khufu's hands hardened. The Book of the Dead warns of divine signs. Pharaohs crumbled. Khufu's cousin, per annals, ignored an omen. His kin starved. It's like a life where your omen's a debt, and your family's the price. Let's drift deeper. Omens were divine. Tahotep's gaze was Ra's, but priests ruled. His readings, per Papyrus Harris, hoarded power. Stele plead for Marat, but gods were silent. Khufu's fear was his faith, his omen his throne. It's like a faith where your god's a priest, and your soul's the sign. As we float through this starlit roof, picture Khufu, scarab trembling, Maritite's petals unsteady, Hetepheres merlite, Khufu's liver heavy. He's not just a pharaoh, he's a seer, every omen a warning, every sign a blade. Divine omens were a crucible, forging pharaohs through fate and breaking them through fear. Drop a comment if you'd read stars till your eyes burn for Ammonius' will. Drop another if you'd face a hawk's dive for Ra's nod. Drop a third if you'd trust a liver that could curse your name. This was the cost of fate's warning, a soul under divine eyes. If that's eerie, brace yourself. Our next chapter seals this saga's shadow. For ancient Egypt's pharaohs, death wasn't the end but a VIP pass to eternity. If they could nail the mummification rites that turned their mortal shells into vessels for immortality. These weren't your average funeral plans. Living gods like Khufu faced a gruesome gauntlet of embalming, wrapping, and rituals to ensure their Ka could chill with Osiris forever. Every cut, chant, and amulet was a superstitious safeguard against oblivion, where a slip could trap their soul in limbo. For Khufu, mummification was less rest in peace, and more preserve or perish. Welcome to the mummification rites of Egypt's living gods, where death was just the warm-up act. Close your eyes, let the scent of natron lull you, and let's wade into the weirdest funeral prep in history. Picture a torch-lit embalming chamber in Giza, 2505 BCE, its stone walls damp, the air thick with natron's salty sting and myrrh's heavy haze. Khufu, 85, lies lifeless on a slab, his once regal frame gaunt, his scarab amulet cold. Embalmers, their linen masks grim, wield obsidian knives, per Papyrus Ebers, slicing his abdomen to remove organs for Osiris' judgment, per Book of the Dead. Maritites, his widow, clutches an ankh, her eyes red, fearing Isis' wrath if the rites falter, per Tomb of Nefertari. Hetepheres, 57, scatters lotus petals, her Wedjat amulet trembling, praying Hathor guards Khufu's Ka, per Abydos stele. Khufu, 60, oversees canopic jars, his Jed pillar heavy, ensuring Anubis accepts the heart, per Saqqara inscriptions. Tahotep, the high priest, chants, per Karnak reliefs, blessing the natron that dries Khufu's flesh. A thrall spills resin, and Tahotep exiles him, per edict of Hormheb, his cries echoing. Khufu's body, packed with salt, waits 70 days, per Papyrus Harris I, a fragile bridge to eternity. This isn't a quiet memorial. It's a rite that'd make your funeral playlist look like Osiris' personal mixtape. Talk about a send-off where rest in peace means, or your soul's stuck in cosmic traffic. Mummification was eternity's key, per Book of the Dead. Organs, liver, lungs, stomach, intestines, were jarred, per Cairo Museum, guarded by gods. Khufu's heart stayed, per Papyrus Ebers, for Anubis scale. Natron, per Karnak reliefs, dried flesh. Embalmers, per Tomb of Tutankhamun, packed it, draining Khufu's wealth. Wrapping, per Saqqara tombs, used linen blessed by Isis. Maritites bandages, per Tomb of Mersang III, needed purity. Amulets, scarabs, ankhs, were tucked, per Abydos stele. Hathor's Wedjat, per Giza reliefs, warded Seth. Chants, per hymns to Ra, guided the Ka. Kawab's voice, per annals, faltered once, risking limbo. It's like a funeral where your coffin's a god, and your bandages a prayer. The stakes were infinite. A flawed rite, per papyrus of Ani, could trap Khufu's Ka, dooming eternity. His father's liver jar cracked, per Westcar papyrus. His soul wandered, per annals. Meritite's linen tore, per tomb of Nefertari. Priests cursed Isis' wrath. Hathor's amulet slipped, per Karnak reliefs. Illness struck, per Abidas stele. Kawab's chant, per Saqqara tombs. Mist. Chaos loomed, per Giza reliefs. Tahotep's blessing, per edict, judged. A bad rite could end Khufu's afterlife, per Papyrus Harris. It's like a job where your funeral's a god, and your slip's oblivion. Here's a shocker. Rites took lives. Embalmers, per Papyrus Westcar, used thrall's blood for Anubis. Meritites wept, per Harris Papyrus. Hathor's amulet, per tomb of Tutankhamun, needed dove blood. Its coup haunted her, per Karnak reliefs. Kawab's jars, per annals, used Nubian resin. Slaves died, per Cairo Museum. Drop a comment if you'd mummify knowing a thrall's blood seals your tomb. The toll was crushing. Khufu's legacy drained. His Ka at risk. Meritite's faith broke. Hathor's spirit faded. Kawab's hands hardened. The Book of the Dead warns of eternal cost. Families crumbled. Khufu's cousin, per annals, botched a rite. His kin starved. It's like a life where your funeral's a debt, and your family's the price. Let's drift deeper. Rites were divine. Tahotep's chants were Osiris, but priests ruled. His blessings, per Papyrus Harris, hoarded power. Stele plead for Marat, but gods were silent. Khufu's Ka was his faith, his fear his tomb. It's like a faith where your god's a priest, and your soul's the slab. As we float through this embalming haze, picture Khufu, body trembling, Meritite's ankh unsteady, Hathor's petals light, Kawab's jars heavy. He's not just a pharaoh, he's a Ka, every rite a bridge, every flaw a void. Mummification was a crucible, forging pharaohs through eternity and breaking them through fear. Drop a comment if you'd dry for Osiris till your flesh cracks. Drop another if you'd rap for Ra's Nod. This was the cost of eternal life, a soul bound by natron. If that's grim, brace yourself, because tomb protections were a wilder guard. While mummification rites prepped ancient Egypt's pharaohs for eternity, tomb protections were the ultimate security system, a web of traps, spells, and curses to shield living gods like Khufu from grave robbers, demons, and Seth's chaos. These weren't your run-of-the-mill padlocks. They were superstitious fortifications to ensure a pharaoh's Ka could rest undisturbed forever. Every seal, amulet, and inscription was a divine firewall, where a crack could doom the soul to oblivion. For Khufu, his tomb wasn't just a crypt, it was a fortress against eternal threats. Welcome to the tomb protections of Egypt's living gods, where death demanded a divine bouncer. Let's drift into this eerie saga, lulled by the echo of sealed stones and the whisper of Anubis' growl. Picture a shadowed necropolis in Giza, 2500 BCE, its pyramids looming, the air thick with resin and the faint hum of priests' chants. Khufu's tomb, a granite maze, is sealed, his Ka within, per Cairo Museum records. Embalmers set traps, pitfalls, false doors, per Saqqara inscriptions. Meritites, his widow, places an ankh amulet, her hands trembling, fearing Isis' wrath if it fails, per tomb of Nefertari. Hathor's, 62, scatters lotus petals, her Wedjat amulet heavy, praying Hathor wards off demons, per Abidas stele. Kawab, 65, inscribes curses, his Jed pillar cold, ensuring Anubis guards the tomb, per Giza reliefs. Tahotep, the high priest, seals the door with spells, per Papyrus Ebers, cursing robbers. A thrall drops a censer, and Tahotep exiles him, per Edict of Hormheb, his cries fading. Khufu's tomb, per Karnak reliefs, hides his mummy, but a loose stone sparks fear. Seth could slip through. This isn't a bank vault, it's a fortress that'd make your home security system look like Osiris' welcome mat. Talk about a crypt where lock the door means, or your soul's goes toast. Tomb protections were Ma'at's shield, per Book of the Dead. Traps, pits, collapsing stones, foiled robbers, per Saqqara tombs. Khufu's maze, per Cairo Museum, cost lives. Amulets, scarabs, ankhs, warded demons, per tomb of Tutankhamun. Meretite's ankh, per tomb of Mersakh III, blocked Seth. Spells, per Papyrus Harris, cursed intruders. Hedifir's petals, per Abidas Stele, soothed Hathor. Curses, per Giza reliefs, damned thieves. Kawab's inscriptions, per annals, invoked Anubis. Priests, per edict, sealed tombs. Tahotep spells, per Papyrus Westkar, could doom Khufu's Ka if flawed. It's like a vault where your lock's a god, and your alarm's a curse. The stakes were eternal. A breached tomb, per Papyrus of Ani, could trap Khufu's Ka, dooming eternity. His father's tomb, per Westkar Papyrus, was looted. His soul wandered, per annals. Meretite's amulet slipped, per tomb of Nefertari. Priests cursed Isis' wrath. Hedifir's petals scattered, per Karnak reliefs. Demons loomed, per Abidas Stele. Kawab's curse faded, per Saqqara tombs. Chaos stirred, per Giza reliefs. Tahotep's seal, per edict, judged. A flaw could end Khufu, per Papyrus Harris. It's like a job where your vault's a god, and your breach's oblivion. Here's a shocker. Protections took lives. Priests, per Papyrus Westkar, sacrificed thralls for Anubis. Meritites wept, per Harris Papyrus. Hedifir's petals, per tomb of Tutankhamun, needed dove blood. Its coup haunted her, per Karnak reliefs. Kawab's curses, per annals, used Nubian ink. Slaves died, per Cairo Museum. Drop a comment if you'd seal a tomb knowing a thrall's blood guards your Ka. The toll was heavy. Khufu's legacy drained, his Ka at risk. Meritite's faith broke. Hedifir's spirit faded. Kawab's hands hardened. The Book of the Dead warns of eternal cost. Families crumbled. Khufu's cousin, per annals, failed to seal. His kin starved. It's like a life where your vault's a debt, and your family's the price. Let's drift deeper. Protections were divine. Tahotep spells were Anubis, but priests ruled. His curses, per Papyrus Harris, hoarded power. Stele plead for Marat, but gods were silent. Khufu's Ka was his faith, his fear his tomb. It's like a faith where your god's a priest, and your soul's the seal. As we float through this shadowed necropolis, picture Khufu's tomb, ankh trembling, Meritite's petals unsteady, Hedifir's amulet light, Kawab's curses heavy. He's not just a pharaoh, he's a Ka, every spell a shield, every flaw a void. Tomb protections were a crucible, forging pharaohs through eternity and breaking them through fear. Drop a comment if you'd curse a tomb till your voice cracks. Drop another if you'd seal for Ra's nod. This was the cost of eternal guard, a soul bound by stone. If that's eerie, brace yourself, because divine judgments were a wilder fate. While tomb protections guarded ancient Egypt's pharaohs from earthly threats, divine judgments were the final boss. A cosmic trial where living gods like Khufu faced Osiris, Anubis, and Marat to weigh their souls for eternity. These weren't your courtroom dramas. They were superstitious showdowns in the Duat, where a pharaoh's heart was balanced against Maat's feather, every sin a potential ticket to Amit's jaws. Each ritual, offering, and amulet was a plea to pass this judgment, where failure meant oblivion. For Khufu, it wasn't just death, it was a verdict on his divine life. Welcome to the divine judgments of Egypt's living gods, where eternity hung on a feather's weight. Let's drift into this haunting saga, lulled by the echo of Anubis' scales and the dread of Maat's gaze. Picture a spectral Duat, 2500 BCE, its shadows swirling, the air heavy with myrrh and the hum of divine chants. Khufu's Ka, translucent, stands before Osiris' throne, his scarab amulet faint, per Book of the Dead. Anubis, jackal-headed, balances Khufu's heart on a scale, Marat's feather gleaming, per Karnak reliefs. Meritite's Ka, frail, clutches an ankh, praying Isis spares her sins, per tomb of Nefertari. Hedifir's Ka, dim, holds a Wedjat amulet, fearing Sekhmet's verdict, per Abidas Stele. Kawab's Ka, stern, grips a Jed pillar, hoping Osiris weighs his flail true, per Saqqara inscriptions. Tahotep's Ka, per Papyrus Ebers, recites Khufu's deeds. A false word could tip the scale, per Papyrus Harris. Amit, crocodile Maud, lurks, per Papyrus of Ani. Khufu's heart races. A heavy heart means her feast. A thrall's Ka, per Edict of Hormheb, wails for spilling resin. Tahotep damns him, per Westcar papyrus. Khufu's Ka trembles. Eternity at stake. This isn't a courtroom sketch. It's a trial that'd make your lie detector test look like Ra's personal quiz show. Talk about a verdict where not guilty means, or your soul's demon chow. Judgments were Ma'at scale, per Book of the Dead. Osiris weighed hearts, per Cairo Museum reliefs. Khufu's deeds, per annals, faced scrutiny. Anubis scale, per Karnak reliefs, judged sins. Meritite's lotus, per tomb of Mersang III, risked Isis curse. Sekhmet's gaze, per Abida Stele, burned Hetepher's myrrh. A flaw doomed her, per Papyrus Ebers. Osiris verdict, per Saqqara tombs, tested Kawab's flail. A lie sparked chaos, per Giza reliefs. Priests, per edict, guided Cass. Tahotep's words, per Papyrus Harris, could damn Khufu. It's like a trial where your judge is a god, and your sentence is oblivion. The stakes were infinite. A heavy heart, per Papyrus of Ani, fed Amit, erasing Khufu's eternity. His father's heart tipped, per Westcar papyrus. His Ka vanished, per annals. Meritite's Ankh faltered, per tomb of Nefertari. Drought cursed her, per Papyrus Ebers. Hetepher's Wedjat failed, per Karnak reliefs. Illness struck, per Abida Stele. Kawab's Jed lied, per Saqqara tombs. Revolt loomed, per Giza reliefs. Tahotep's chant, per edict, judged. A flaw could end Khufu, per Papyrus Harris. It's like a job where your trial's a god, and your losses a void. Here's a shocker. Judgments took lives. Priests, per Papyrus Westcar, sacrificed thralls for Osiris. Meritites wept, per Harris Papyrus. Hetepher's amulet, per tomb of Tutankhamun, needed dove blood. Its coup haunted her, per Karnak reliefs. Kawab's pillar, per annals, used Nubian gold. Slaves died, per Cairo Museum. Drop a comment if you'd face Anubis knowing a thrall's blood buys your verdict. The toll was crushing. Khufu's hope faded, his Ka at risk. Meritite's faith broke. Hetepher's spirit faded. Kawab's hands hardened. The Book of the Dead warns of eternal cost. Families crumbled. Khufu's cousin, per annals, failed judgment. His kin starved. It's like a life where your verdict's a debt, and your family's the price. Let's drift deeper. Judgments were divine. Tahotep's chants were Osiris, but priests ruled. His words, per Papyrus Harris, hoarded power. Stele plead for Marat, but gods were silent. Khufu's Ka was his faith, his fear his scale. It's like a faith where your god's a priest, and your soul's the weight. As we float through this spectral duet, picture Khufu's Ka, scarab trembling, Meritite's Ankh unsteady, Hetepher's Wedjat light, Kawab's Jed heavy. He's not just a pharaoh, he's a soul, every deed a weight, every sin a blade. Divine judgments were a crucible, forging pharaohs through eternity and breaking them through fear. Drop a comment if you'd face Osiris till your heart tips. Drop another if you'd stand for Ra's nod. Drop a third if you'd trust a scale that could damn your soul. This was the cost of eternal fate, a soul weighed by a feather's truth. If that's haunting, brace yourself. Our conclusion will seal this saga's shadow. As the last echoes of priestly chants fade into the torchlit haze of ancient Egypt's temples, we reach the end of our journey through the bizarre saga of the weird rituals and superstitions of Egypt's living gods. A tale of pharaohs like Khufu, who danced a cosmic tightrope to keep Ma'at's balance, their every step a plea to gods as fickle as the Nile's floods. From goose-greased mornings to blood-soaked altars, from golden processions to the spectral scales of the Duat, these living gods lived in a world where a dropped amulet or a bad omen could unleash famine, plague, or eternal oblivion. Their lives were a relentless grind of rituals and superstitions, a divine performance where the stakes were nothing less than the universe itself. Close your eyes, let the soft lap of the Nile lull you, and let's weave together this strange epic, finding gratitude in our simpler lives and a question to carry into your dreams. Picture Khufu one final time, standing in a Memphis temple, 2500 BCE, his coal-lined eyes weary, his scarab amulet heavy against his chest as he chants to Ra, the sun god's light barely warming his grease-slicked skin. The air is thick with myrrh, the hum of priests spells a constant drone, as Meritites, his wife, braids lotus charms for their daughter, Hetepher's, her hands trembling under the gaze of Tahotep, the high priest whose omens could curse a dynasty. Kawab, their son, polishes a golden flail, his knuckles raw, knowing a single smudge could anger Ammonius and doom the harvest. The temple's walls, carved with Horus-piercing eyes, seemed to watch, judging every step, every offering, every breath. Khufu's life was a marathon of rituals. Shaved at dawn to purify his divine essence, slathered in rancid goose grease to shine for Ra, marching in golden processions to prove his godhood, and trembling before Osiris' scales in the duet, his heart weighed against Maat's feather. His world was a labyrinth of superstitions. Scarab amulets to ward off Seth's chaos, curses to smite tomb robbers, omens read in hawk flights that could spell flood or famine. This wasn't a glamorous gig with a Nile-side penthouse. It was a divine cage where every day was a gamble with eternity, every night a prayer to dodge Anubis' jaws. Their saga is a haunting hymn of devotion and dread, a whisper from the sands that makes your morning coffee run feel like a sacred gift from Horus himself. Let's gather the threads of this gilded epic, because it's a tale as wild as it is hypnotic. We began with Khufu's daily rites, a sweaty slog of shavings, oils, and chants to keep the gods from throwing a cosmic tantrum, where a fumbled censer could mean locusts or drought. The festival rites turned him into a divine rock star, strutting through Opet processions and dancing for Hathor, each step a plea to keep Maat spinning, each misstep a risk of divine fury. Superstitions ruled his world. Amulets like scarabs and ankhs were his armor against Seth's malice, curses his whip against foes, omens his map through a fate written in stars and entrails. His afterlife obsessions were the grand finale. Mummification rites to preserve his ka, tomb traps to fend off robbers, and a heart-weighing trial in the duet where Amit's jaws waited for a guilty verdict. It's like starring in a reality show where the challenges are gods, the prize is eternity, and the host is a priest with a knife and a grudge. This wasn't just a life, it was a divine performance, a saga that makes your Wi-Fi outage seem like a love note from Ra. Now, step back and breathe the air of our world, because the contrast is sharper than an embalmer's blade. Imagine Khufu in a modern coffee shop, staring at a menu with lattes and muffins. No need to shave his eyebrows for Ammonius or offer a bull to dodge a curse. No priest glaring over a spilled censer. Our homes don't hum with myrrh or dread. Our alarms, not chants, wake us, and our biggest morning ritual is hitting snooze. We don't march in golden barges to prove our worth or dance for Sekhmet to calm her lioness rage. Our festivals are barbecues or concerts, not cosmic gambles with the Nile's flood. Our superstitions, lucky socks, horoscopes, don't carry the weight of famine or plague. We don't clutch scarabs to fend off demons or curse our neighbors with Anubis' wrath. Our afterlife worries, if any, don't involve natron-packed corpses or heart-weighing scales. We plan for legacies in photos or love, not granite tombs rigged with traps. We're not Khufus or Meritites, bound by divine chains. We're free to live without a priest's omen dictating our day, to sleep without fear of Seth's chaos, to dream without a god's verdict. Drop a comment if you're grateful for a world where your worst ritual is untangling headphone cords, not slathering goose grease to appease Ra. Yeah, thought so. This gratitude isn't just for ease. It's a lens that sharpens our view of Khufu's world. He, Meritites, Hathors, and Kawab endured a life where every act was a divine test, their every breath a plea to keep Maat's balance. Khufu's shaved scalp was his devotion, each razor nick a risk of Ammonius' frown. Meritite's lotus charms were her love, each wilted petal a fear of Isis' curse. Hathor's Wedjat amulet was her hope, its weight a shield against Sekhmet's rage. Kawab's flail was his duty, its polish a vow to uphold Maat. Their resilience humbles us. They faced gods, omens, and curses with nothing but amulets, chants, and a will to endure. Their legacy, papyri like Book of the Dead, reliefs in Karnak, tombs in Giza, cries we defied chaos, a spark that burns in modern Egypt's Nile cruises, in our own daily grind. It's like they carved their pyramids not of stone but of faith, daring us to carry their light through our own trials, be they traffic jams or deadlines. Their saga holds warnings as sharp as their obsidian knives. Their amulets, per Cairo Museum, mirror our need for control. Do we cling to rituals that bind us? Their curses, per Papyrus Westcar, echo our grudges. Do we let anger shape our fate? Their omens, per Karnak reliefs, question our fears. Do we read signs where none exist? Their afterlife rites, per Book of the Dead, challenge our legacies. What do we build for eternity? Their devotion, per Havamol-like wisdom, urges us to live. Do we honor the moment, or chase a pharaoh's tomb? Their world was a divine labyrinth, their lives aflame, their legacy a call to shine before the sands claim us all. Let's linger on a final vision, a spark to seal this saga. Khufu stands by the Nile, his scarab glinting, his voice chanting Razim as Meritites braids Hathor's hair. Kawab polishes his flail, the temple aglow with myrrh. The gods watch, Ra's light, Isis grace, Osiris scales. But Khufu dreams of a simpler life. A farmer by the Nile, his kin safe, his name unsung but his heart full, free of amulets, curses, or priests' glares. He wakes, old but fierce, and faces eternity, his legacy not in pyramids but in Meritite's love, Hathor's hope, Kawab's duty, a flame no god can snuff. He's a pharaoh, but he's human, his saga a whisper of defiance against chaos roar. It's like a man longing for a world where his mark is a laugh, not a tomb, his eternity a hand held tight in the dark. This vision seals the saga of Egypt's living gods. Strange, haunting, a cry from the sands that echoes in our bones. We've walked their torchlit temples, tasted their fear, felt their desperate faith. Now, as we drift toward sleep, let's hold their spark, live for the moment, bread shared, a tale told, a warmth kindled in love, not stone. Their world was a divine cage, their lives aflame, their legacy a lesson to burn bright before oblivion calls. So, here's a question to weave into your dreams. If you faced Khufu's do it, would you chase the Pharaoh's saga, a scarab's weight, a tomb's curse, a name to defy eternity? Or would you choose the Nile's bank, a life unsung but warm, where your saga is a child's smile, a kin's embrace, a moment no god can claim? Drop a comment with your choice. Let it shine as you drift off, dreaming of a world where you're not a god, but gloriously, gratefully human. The temples crumble, the Nile flows, and the Pharaoh's whispers fade. But your answer, your saga, lights this moment, a legacy no curse can touch.